says, please, William, the problem I have with the MPP is that there's a saying, actions speak louder than words, but they say words speak louder than action. Empty promises and Kwan. I'm a trotro mate. What Baumia said, he really doesn't know the work of mate. Mate is the one to see to the safety of the passengers, where each and everyone will alight as well as the money. So if he says he has no power, he should rethink with the grassroots people. If the opportunity is given to us on air or TV, MPP will not come out asking for power again. Thank you. Comrade Pratt.
Well, frankly, I don't see why so many people are beating about the bush. Is there anybody who understands Ghana's politics and is able to read the ground who will tell me today that President John Dramani Mahama has not made his mind? Today, as we sit here. The person must be... What secret? Anybody who thinks that as we sit here, he has not made up his mind, and that who is going to be his running mate is not known, must be very strange. You don't even have to look far. Just read the ground. It is obvious. The person has been chosen already. The person going to be announced will be Professor Naana Opoku Ajimai. Finish. That is all this rigmarole and so on and the person has been chosen already. The person to be announced will be Professor Naana Opoku Ajimai. Common sense will tell you that. One, let us assume that by some strange circumstances she's not announced as a running mate. The NDC is going to spend the next 9 months explaining why she was dropped. Who wants that? Who is crazy enough to want that kind of situation? And then sometimes you hear, everybody should accept it. Who has the capacity to cause any trouble? There will be no trouble. Trouble from where? This nonsense of I'm coming from Volta region, so it should be given to... What rubbish is that? I'm coming from Ashanti region, I'm coming from Bumprugu and so on. Rubbish. Has no relevance. So, Master, I don't often stick my head out, or my neck out. It will be Professor Naana Opoku Ajimai. That's the name which will be announced, and it will be announced, and she will become the running mate to John Dramani Mahama. I have a caution, however, and a serious caution. And I do hope that Professor Naana Opoku Ajimai herself will take this caution seriously. And her friends and relatives will take this caution seriously. She is the one who is about to be nominated as the running mate to President John Dramani Mahama. It is not her relatives and it is not her friends. No friend of hers or relative of hers will be nominated as deputy vice presidential candidate. No, I'm very serious about what I'm saying. No relative of hers, no friend of hers is about to be nominated as deputy vice presidential candidate. If she's nominated, it is because of who she is, and not who her cousin is, or who her auntie is, and so on. This is a very important question. I know what I'm talking about. I've seen this game play out several times. You can get a very good leader, or somebody with a huge potential as leader and so on. Eventually, her capability is limited by associates, friends, relatives, and so on. This is a very small caution, but I think it's an important caution. There are so many people, if she's announced, who will seek to profit from her leadership. She must understand in very clear terms that the only people who have a right to profit from her leadership are the collective people of Ghana, not her relatives, not her friends, not her associates. The focus must be clear. Ghana, finish. If she degenerates into that abyss, well, what can I do? I've watched her from a distance. The first time I saw her was when she delivered the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Lectures at the University of Cape Coast. And I sat in the crowd and listened to her, and I said, what a woman. What brilliance, and so on. And since then, I've never been disappointed by this professor. I hope that the qualities that she expressed in the University of Cape Coast, she understands that those qualities are not shared by her relatives, friends, and associates. Those are her own qualities. I speak frankly. If you don't like what I say, please. The gate is open. You can go to hell. It must be an important statement. It was not made out of jest, you understand? It was a message he wanted to communicate. And I'm wondering why that was an important message for him, to deliver. Now, if you listen to this address, there's no way you can imagine that within the last 7 years, the price of kenkey has gone from 50 pesos to 5 cedis. Nothing in this address suggests that in a period of 7 years, the price of kenkey has shot up from 50 pesos to 5 cedis. Nothing. Now, you listen to this address, and there's nothing in it to hint that the value of the cedi has moved from 3.6 to $1 to 13 in 7 years. There's nothing in the address that will show that. Now, there's nothing in the address which shows that if you unfortunately fall sick and you are hospitalized in one of the modern hospitals in our country and so on, few of them, you are hospitalized for 2 weeks, you are likely to go home with a bill of close to 200,000 cedis. 2 weeks hospitalization. There's nothing in the address which suggests that. There's nothing in the address which suggests that we have arrived at a situation where today, kenkey sellers are saying that, look, if you buy your kenkey, you have to buy your pepper. Nothing in the address suggests that. There's nothing in the address which suggests that in spite of free SHS, many parents, and I mean it, many parents have had to withdraw their children from elite schools because they can no longer afford the fees. This is not to support the elite school system. I think it's horrible. It has to go. But part of our reality is that a lot of parents are having to withdraw their children from elite schools because they simply cannot afford it. You understand? Now, there is something else which is very interesting. And this is something which has not just come from the president. It has also come from many of the communicators of government. And what do they say? Say, well, we've been in power for 7 years. We were doing so very well until COVID came. And then things went haywire. Why? Is the COVID period not part of the period for which they were in charge? if a disaster struck after COVID, the responsibility for managing that disaster is still theirs. And people have a right to question how their mandate was exercised within the COVID period. The COVID period is not outside their mandate, it's within their mandate. And sometimes I find this statement a bit strange. My brother, last night, I was reading a very interesting document. Could I send it to you? There is turmoil in one of the smaller parties, real big turmoil in one of the smaller parties. And one of the issues at stake has to do with some funds which were made available to the leadership for the conduct of the last elections. And in this very long report, which is available, you understand, there's a portion which talks about COVID funds being released to smaller political parties to conduct elections. Now, if you had so much money as a result of COVID, that you could actually dispense that money to smaller political parties to go and organize elections, how does COVID then become a problem rather than a blessing? Not just that, there's this candidate, parliamentary candidate of the New Patriotic Party in, I think, ABA Fuseni's constituency, who actually came up and said, look, we're giving COVID funds to run our campaigns. And remember the fight over that money. So how then does COVID become a problem? When you have so much money that you could actually distribute COVID funds to aspiring members of parliament, party executives and so on, to run elections. How then does COVID become a problem for which the economy, has to suffer? I don't understand it. Now, all of us lived in this country in the COVID period. What extraordinary happened? People in poor households and so on were promised free water. And to some extent, subsidized electricity. 1 year later, a minister in this administration came and said, the water was not free. And now you are going to pay for it. You remember? The electricity was not free. You are going to pay for it. So if people paid for the electricity and the water that was given to them, how did COVID then become a huge problem? I don't understand. You understand? Now, that is not all. We all saw the videos of innocent poor people jumping over themselves to collect half-cooked rice with the wing of a chicken pegged on it. You remember? Total pandemonium in our communities. The food was inadequate. It had been poorly cooked and so on. Is that the reason why the economy went into a tailspin? Those packages on flatbed trucks that they distributed, is that why the economy went into a tailspin? And if that is the reason why the economy went into a tailspin, then really we have a huge problem to deal with. In any case, 88 members of parliament from the New Patriotic Party did not believe that COVID was responsible for the tailspin that the economy suffered. They held a press conference and said that the economy was in crisis because of the incompetence of their own finance minister. I'm not the one saying it. It is not the butterfly movement which is saying it. It is not the National Democratic Congress. It is not the CPP. 88 so-called majority parliamentarians told us in the face that the economy was in the doldrums because of the incompetence of the finance minister. Now, in spite of that, the president called them to a meeting in Flagstaff House and told these MPs that, look, just don't push it. We have to go to the International Monetary Fund to go and beg for relief and so on. And their competence is not needed. Yes, you said that the finance minister is incompetent. Don't worry. He's going to beg for relief. And the competence you require is not needed in the IMF. So I'm going to send him there. When he has finished doing the incompetent job there, I will get rid of him. They didn't get rid of him. He has now been elevated to some superstar economic manager. That's our reality. The State of the Nation of address does not reflect this concrete reality. Now, there is something else which I find most interesting. I mean, since 1992, I have listened to the State of the Nation address from all kinds of heads of states. Jerry Rawlings, President Kufuor, Atta Mills, and so on. Never have I heard the president discussing his own personal habits. If somebody has heard it before, tell me. His own personal habits. Everybody who knows me knows that I don't drink. State of the Nation address? Hey, my friends.
He didn't say that's
Well, you say what you want to say and allow me to say what I want to say.
Just an observation.
You know, I mean, personal habits of the president. I mean, if you don't take care, we'll get to the situation where one day some president is going to tell us how many times he urinates in a day in the State of the Nation address. Whether you drink or not has nothing to do with us. And then, you know, sometimes some of our leaders think that they are too clever. So he's addressing Parliament and he says that when it comes to roads and so on, that one, it will not be in this address. You have to use some special application, use digitalization or digitization or whatever, go to school to learn ICT and so on, and then you will find it on some application. Hey! In a country with an illiteracy rate of 50% or thereabout, our president says that we should all become modern ICT offenders, use applications, go on platforms and so on to find what he has done in respect of roads. You see, we don't need to do that to find the state of roads in our country. This morning, I drove from Musuku to this station. I know the state of the roads from Musuku to this place. You understand? I know the state of roads in Christian Village. That's why I passed to come here. You see the Zoom Park. You see the road in front of the Zoom Park?